Our more liturgical brothers and sisters, they have used this passage to talk about the papal authority of the line of Peter, right? Come on now, this is the Midwest. You guys know what I'm talking about. This is how we know that the Pope has authority, because it's been passed down from Peter down the line into our current Pope. Which, by the way, I love a lot of what our current Pope, the current Pope, is doing. But this is not what this passage is talking about, right? Jesus is trying to make a much larger point than that, and that goes far beyond Peter, all the way through history to you and I. And this is the point. See, in Peter, if you do a word study, in Peter, or in Greek, the name Peter means little pebble. Little pebble. How many of you got a little pebble when you came in here this morning? Little pebble, right? But Jesus, 2 words later, calls him the rock, right? You are Peter, and on this rock. Now, if you look up the word study on rock, it doesn't mean little pebble. It means foundation. Big old rock. Come on. Right? On this rock. On this foundation. Because of these little pebbles, this big foundation is going to happen. Amen. Right? Because of these little itty bitty pebbles. Peter, because of the declaration that just came out of your mouth, these little foundations, these little things that you're holding on to, man, the more that these things happen, the more that they get said, the more that these little pebbles come together and gather together and begin to form a foundation. On this foundation, on this foundation of the men and women of Jesus Christ, saying, that Jesus is the Son of God, the living God. As we gather together, and we take all our little pebbles and say, God, this is my pebble. What do you want me to do with it? What do you want me to do with it? And God begins to piece us together. Your pebble and my pebble, and your pebble and my pebble. And we begin to put them together. This foundation begins to form. But the church begins to stand on. And God says, this is the foundation I'm going to build my church on. And so it matters what you say. Come on. It matters the declaration that comes out of your mouth. It matters what you do with your pebble. And too many of us have this pebble, and we feel really good about it. I know that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. And I'm going to put him right here in my pocket, so that I've got him anytime I need him. But that's never been the intention of what's supposed to happen with your pebble. That's never been the intention of what is supposed to happen with the knowledge, with the information that God has given you that he is the Christ. Not just the head knowledge, but the heart knowledge. How many of you don't know that Jesus is real because Pastor said it, but you know that Jesus is real because you've seen Jesus be real in your life? He's real because when you were all alone, he was there. When you were hurting, he was there. When you were sick, he was there. When you were in need, he was there. When your marriage was falling apart, he was there. When things were great, he was there. Every moment of every day, God showed up and has been there, and that's how you know. Lord. If I can be really, really, really honest, the last few weeks, like I said, I work someplace else. I don't just work at the church. And last week, I worked 74 hours. Last week. You know what that's like. 74 hours. And I leave my house early Monday morning, and I don't get back until Friday evening. Every week. This week I worked Saturday, too. Many of my days were 12, 14 plus hours long. Come on. And yesterday, I was driving to go to a job early in the morning. I was beat up. God, I just feel that you're far away. And I know you didn't go anywhere, but I haven't really got to spend any time with you. I haven't really got to feel your presence. I haven't really got to hold your hand and walk through this life. And God, I'm feeling really alone. You ever been there? Yeah. As I'm praying these things, God begins to bring up these old songs from the 80s and 90s that I used to listen to, worship music that I used to listen to. And it doesn't always happen that way, right? Sometimes God's used great movies that Hollywood puts out to reveal himself to me. Sometimes He's used people like you to come up and just encourage me. But there was an old song that went through my head and onto my phone through YouTube's an awesome act of God, right? Yeah. Can be. And it's also an act of Satan. My kids would give you that too. But YouTube is an awesome tool to be used for God's glory, if you'll let it. And I pulled up this song that I hadn't heard in years. And the song went like this. The song is by Michael O'Brien. It says, "And if ever I forget, the one who nailed my shame to a tree, who took my place when no one else believed, you were there for me. If ever I forget." Right? And the song is going on, and I'm driving to work, and I'm an electrician, and so I'm driving to work in this big old van with tears streaming down my face, and people driving past me probably thinking I'm crazy. And in that moment, it wasn't the song that touched my life.
Jesus.
Right. I didn't feel, nothing got fixed. I was still really, really busy. But knowing that in that moment I had never been alone and that God was with me and that He cared enough to be personal enough to speak to me specifically meant everything. Meant everything. See, I don't need all my problems to be fixed. What I need is Jesus. I don't need everything in my life to go well. What I need to know is that He's beside me. Right? I mean, has that ever been true for you? Some of the best stories that talk about missionaries, some of the best stories of missionaries you'll ever hear are the missionaries that are captured and in bondage and dealing with knowing that death is imminent. So there have been people that have escaped that reality and come back and say, man, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to that bondage. I don't want to go back to that. But man, wasn't God good there? I mean, if it wasn't for all the other stuff, I would go back there because God was more real there than He's ever been in my life. Amen. And so there's so many times when I pray, God, I don't if you need to take this away from me, take it away from me, God, because I'm all for that. But if this is where I'm going to find you more, leave it here. If this is where you're going to be more real, if this is where I'm going to know your presence better, then God, I'm not asking for you to take away all my problems. Leave them if it means that I get you. Woo!
Lord. Wow. Man. That's awesome.
And it's that kind of knowledge of Jesus that you can't be silent about. It's that kind of knowledge of Jesus that you can't just keep to yourself. It's that kind of knowledge that comes out of your mouth. And you want to know something fantastic? It doesn't just come out of my mouth. It comes out of your mouth. See, because the reality is in the gospel that I wasn't called to be a church planter. We were called to be church planters. Because the church is not this building. And the church is not this thing that we're doing on Sunday morning. The church is each and every life that has been transformed by the love of Jesus and can proudly stand and say, I know the Son of the living God. And so when you open your mouth and you tell your neighbors and you tell your coworkers and you tell your relatives and you tell these people that you come into contact with, listen, I don't know what you're going to do with this. I don't care what you're going to do with this. All I know is that I know the one true God. I know the one who set me free. I was in darkness and now I'm in light. I was dead and now I've been made alive. All I know is that He's real. He's not some thing in a book. He's real. And whatever you do with that, I'm just going to let that out.
Lord.
And when you do that, the Spirit of God swoops in and goes, now let me make it real for you too, bro. Right? And so then the church grows. When you open your mouth, the church grows. Now, speaking of your local body, listen, you guys have a good amount of people in here today. How many would you like to see that double?
Yeah.
Yeah. How many of you believe that God wants that far more than you do?
Yeah.
Far more than you do. And God says, I've called you all to be church planters, but it's time that you open your mouth. I've called you all, each and every one of you. I've called you to plant that church of one, your neighbor. I've called you to make him a church. Your coworker, I've called you to make her a church. That person that you've been trying to share the gospel with for years, that relative. God says, I called you to make that a church. It's your job to plant that church. You don't need to reach 50, reach the one. You don't need to reach 5,000 to reach the one. And the reason you have one pebble today is because I think that each and every one of you can reach one. Right?
Right.
So this is meant to remind you that there is someone who God has called you to plant a church in. There is someone that God has called you to start up a church in their life. God has called you to lead him to Jesus. God has called you to speak the words out of your mouth. Because if we're honest, that's the most terrifying thing, isn't it? I mean, I can be honest. I do this all the time. And it's still terrifying. We still end up in places that I'm like, should I say something? Should I not say something? Right?
Come on, Pastor.
There's a quote by Charles Spurgeon. If you don't know Spurgeon, he was a preacher in London in the late 1800s. I love this quote. It's really kind of what spawned this entire message. And Spurgeon was known as the father of preachers. So if you kind of look at the modern way that we preach, that's Charles Spurgeon was kind of the founder of that. But this is what he said in one of his messages. He said, every Christian here is either a missionary or an imposter. You either try to spread abroad the kingdom of Christ, or else you do not love him at all. It cannot be that there is a high appreciation of Jesus and a totally silent tongue about him. The man who says, I believe in Jesus, but does not think enough of Jesus to ever tell another about him by mouth or pen or tract is an imposter. It's rough, right? Yeah. But I feel your pain. I know that it's difficult. This last week, we were hanging out with some friends. Last weekend, we were hanging out with some friends, and I'm going to just be honest because I can be, because I have the mic. No, because I'm going to be honest, and honestly, there were friends we were hanging out, and they wanted to go to a sports bar, so we were sitting at a sports bar with friends. Okay, why? Because that's where people that need Jesus hang out. Right? They don't hang out in my church. They don't hang out in your church. Right? So I went where they were. But they're not just at the bar, they're at your soccer games. They're at the football practices. They're at your kids' band recitals. They are at your grocery stores. They're your family reunions. And so we're hanging out with them, and in that moment, like we were just making friends and just being kind of close to people and trying to build relationships with people. And I felt that nudge to share. Right? And how many of you, have you been there? Come on. And yet in that moment you go, but God, these people, they don't really know me. What if they don't like me anymore? What if they think I'm crazy? What if they think I'm one of those weird religious nut jobs? What if they, and they might be right, but what if they think these things about me, God? And then I've been down this road long enough to know that, yeah. I mean, how many of you have seen the movie We Built a Zoo? We Bought a Zoo? We Bought a Zoo. Anybody seen that? I love the line in that. The line in that says, if you just have 30 seconds of ridiculous courage, then something will happen. Right? It's something like that. That's essentially the reality when it comes to you sharing your faith. That if you could just muster up that 30 seconds of blind, ridiculous, God help me, courage, and then you do it, right? Those snap prayers where you go, okay, now, right? And then God shows up. And if you'll just kind of get pushed through that, you're going to be amazed at what happens on the other side. You just are. But I don't want to give you some pie-in-the-sky ideas. Let me just give you 3 really quick things, and there's not like some long talks after them. I'm just going to give you the 3 points. And they all have to do with invite. So this is how you share with somebody else. The first thing is invite the Holy Spirit. See, because the reality is you don't have to do this on your own. The reality is that you don't have to do this in your own strength, in your own courage. You don't have to be the one to go, well, I'm just going to man up and do it. Right? Because how many of you know I've backed down from that fight a bunch of times.
Yeah, come on.
But when I say, God, I want to do this. My heart wants to do this, but I'm terrified. I just need you to help me. Right? God will give you what you need. He'll make a way. In those moments, that moment last weekend when we were talking, I'm wrestling with God, what should we do? God, okay, you're asking me to do this, but what does this look like? Blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden somebody goes, hey, so why did you guys move here?
Woo, there it is.
Hey, I know why! Right? And that's the reality. If you just pray and say, God, create the moment. Make it so obvious that any idiot like me could walk through. God's going to go, okay. I've had people, no kid, I was on a bus ride to New York to go see my wife. She was at a family thing, and I had to stay behind to work, and maybe you've ever ridden a bus for like
31 hours?
Yeah. It's like where your body gives out on you halfway through, and you're like, Jesus, I still love you. Right? We're on this bus ride, and this lady sits beside me, and I start getting this urge to share the gospel with her, and I'm like, no way. We're 2 hours onto this 18-hour bus ride. I am not doing that and having her think I'm crazy for 16 hours. Right? And I'm